People wonder and ask, did Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him marry a child? Was this a normal practice 1400 years ago? What was the wisdom behind it? According to authentic sources, Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him married Aisha when she was 6 years old, and the marriage was consummated after she turned 9. However, it is important to understand things in their historical context. For instance, it would be silly to ask, what kind of milk did they drink 1400 years ago? Or to ask, what kind of engine they used to have back then? Therefore, one must understand that things 1400 years ago were very different from now. Time have changed, and so human have. 1400 years ago, it was very common for women to marry at a young age. It is a historical fact that girls from ages 9 to 14 were married off in Europe, Asia, Africa, and America. For example, St. Augustine, 350 AD, he married a 10-year-old. King Richard II, 1400 AD, he married a 7-year-old. Henry VIII, 1500 AD, he married a 6-year-old. Even in the Bible, it says, "But say for yourself every girl who have never slept with a man." According to Catholic Encyclopedia, Mary, the mother of Jesus, was 12 when she married 99-year-old Joseph. Before 1929, Church of England ministers could marry a 12-year-old in Britain. Before 1983, Catholic canon laws permitted priests to marry off brides at the age of 12. A lot of people are unaware in the United States, in the state of Delaware in the 1880, the minimum age for marriage was 7 years old, and in California it was 10 years. Even now, the marriage age for some states are 12 in Massachusetts, 13 in New Hampshire, and 14 in New York. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, those who refused his message tried every method and strategy to discredit him. They were always looking for opportunities to attack him, verbally or even physically. Some of this verbal abuse consisted of calling him magician or a soothsayer or crazy. However, they never thought to point out or objected to his marriage to Aisha. Why? Because this was the norm of society, meaning it was completely normal. With that said, did you know that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he had only one wife, Khadija, throughout the first 54 years of his life? Did you know that she was a widow? Did you know that she was 15 years older than him? He, peace be upon him, spent his entire youth with her. He was committed to her until after her death by keeping ties with her friends. What about Aisha? Was she a child when she agreed to marry Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? First, it's important to note that it is strictly prohibited in Islam to marry someone before the age of puberty. Note, the age of puberty varies throughout different times and different places. According to scientific references, girls might enter full-blown puberty anytime between the ages of 9 and 15. Also, the average temperature of the country is considered to be the chief factor with regard to menstruation and sexual puberty. So, was Aisha a child? No, she was not. So what about the wisdom behind this marriage? God always knows best. The marriage of Aisha was an instruction from God. Aisha narrated to us more than 2200 hadiths or sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Aisha was exceptionally intelligent, and since she married Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, at a young age, she was able to learn so much from him. She later played an important role as a teacher, expert, and interpreter of Islam. So, there was so much wisdom behind this marriage. For those who do not know Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did not come to seek worldly pleasures, but rather, he warned us against them. His companions described him as a man of morality and said he was shyer than a virgin in her seclusion. When the believers asked him an awkward question, he would cover his face out of shyness. He taught us that each religion is known for a kind of morality, and the morality of Islam is shyness and modesty. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Say, I'm only a man like you, whom revealed to him that your God is one God. So whomever would hope to meet his Lord, let him do righteous work, and not associate anyone with his Lord. If you have questions about Islam,
we have to realize that we should think about the questions themselves and where they're emanating from, and perhaps the questions themselves are flawed. And I want to give you just one simple example that the right always uses, Islamophobes always use, and they make a very big deal of it. And that is, they say, for example, your prophet, astaghfirullah, was, and they use a very vulgar word, interested in young people. And I don't want to use the word out of respect for the Prophet, because the age of Aisha was young age. It was 9 years old in the Sahih Bukhari hadith. Okay, she was 9 years old according to Hadith of Bukhari. And so they use a very vulgar word. And I've had young men and women come to me, Muslims, and they say, how can we accept this? This is something that is vulgar. It's unethical. I can't believe that a prophet would do this. Now, This person, and this is a classic example, this question is emanating from a particular mind, coming from a particular culture, of a particular generation, and a particular time, and a particular place. The worst enemies of the Prophet ﷺ, who smeared him with everything imaginable, they couldn't even think of this as a flaw. Why? Because cultures vary, practices vary. And it's not just Islamic or Arab culture. The reality is, 500, 1,000 years ago, the world over, people were marrying at younger ages. Why? Because the lifespan was shorter and young kids became mature faster. A 9-year-old of 1400 years ago is like a 16, 17-year-old intellectually and biologically of our times. So when we say 9, we are back projecting our 9-year-old of 2014, Detroit, imagining a 9-year-old girl, and then back projecting that into Medina and saying, oh, how could our Prophet marry somebody that's 9? See, this is a cultural bias. Go do the research. In some states to this day, I'm from one of them, Tennessee, you can marry people at the age of 14 or 15, right? It's not magical, the age of 18. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, the average age of getting married was in your teen. 500 even more so. Romeo and Juliet, when Romeo and Juliet was written, do you know the age of Romeo and Juliet in the Shakespeare's play? Romeo and Juliet are supposed to be 14 and 13 years old. And that's why they had 14 and 13-year-old actors play Romeo and Juliet. Now in our times, if Romeo and Juliet were 14 and 13, they'd go to jail for pedophilia or something like this, right? But look, when Shakespeare's writing, and Shakespeare's only 500 years ago, Romeo and Juliet are supposed to be 14 and 13 because of his era. 14 and 13 is like our era, 18 and 17. If this is something 500 years ago, and subhanAllah, not even 500, again, go look back in this country, in the 1800s, early 1900s, the average age of marriage was early 20s to teens, in this country. And this is in America. In many other countries to this day, the age of marriage is still much younger. And I don't mind telling you this, my own grandmother, and she was born in British India, my own grandmother got married at the age of 14. She was 14 years old when she got married. And I remember talking to her as she's passed away, Allah عنها. I remember asking her and I was at the time 17, 18, so I couldn't imagine getting married at 14. And I said, how could you get married at 14? And she was like, son, beta, everybody got married at that age. All my friends, we all got married at that age. And this is 1920s British India. We're not talking about, 1,000 years ago. So for us to be so gung-ho, so passionate, how could our Prophet ﷺ have done that? SubhanAllah, who should we blame first? Our own intellect or the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ? And of course, this leads us to the issue of how do we respond to these charges. And there are many Muslims, they just don't understand and they buckle under the pressure and they start, figuring out, well, Aisha was actually 18. Very convenient because 18 is the age of marriage here. I'm pretty sure 100 years from now when the age is raised to 1920, automatically Aisha's age will miraculously rise up to 1920. That's not the way to answer these questions. Aisha never complained. She was the happiest wife in the world. She loved the marriage of the Prophet. She loved the Prophet. She's not angry. She's not complaining. This is a 1,400-year-old culture. Now nobody's saying we need to resurrect that in our times. And I don't have any problem as a faqih, as a theologian, as an imam to say, okay, in our age, a 9-year-old girl does not qualify to get married. We have to wait till she's older. No problem. Many ulama are saying that. But for us to feel this complex, and then we have young people coming up to us, how could Islam allow X? Why does the Quran say Y? Take a step back and ask yourself, why am I asking this question? Where is this question emanating from? Perhaps my own understanding should be questioned before questioning the Quran.
Interested in learning the truth. So let's begin. Now, in regards to the marriage of Aisha, we've already answered this before. But since I'm now responding to an atheist who doesn't believe in God and therefore has no objective code of morality, you are in no position to objectively determine what is the morally acceptable age of marriage in a 6th century Arabian desert, especially when the only morals you hold are those that are subjective and constantly changing over time in accordance with new ideas, opinions and cultures. So something that is wrong for you today, just as well might be right for you tomorrow. Example, consensual incest. While on the other hand, we do have our own objective moral code, which not only prohibits incest, but also prohibits the consummation of marriage with any individual who has not yet reached maturity. So despite her age, she was mature.
People try to tell me that back then, kids actually grew fast. Are you kidding?
No, we're not kidding you. The French philosopher Montesquieu, who just like yourself was a staunch critic of Islam and religion in general, stated in The Spirit of Laws, which was used in developing the American Constitution, that in hot climates, women are marriageable at 8, 9 or 10 years of age, while by the age of 20, a woman would be considered old.
The non-Muslim has the audacity to mention the marriage of Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu anha to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in a society where a woman was considered a woman when she passes the age of puberty. In a society where a woman was considered a woman when she passes the age of puberty and she was married off. This is why they mention that when you study cultures and people, anthropology, you do not get modern standards and apply modern standards on previous cultures and civilizations. This is something known amongst anthropologists. So the Messenger ﷺ marrying Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu anha was because she was considered a woman in that society. So Sayyidatuna Aisha was not a girl. The Messenger ﷺ married not a girl but a woman. She was a woman, and she was not a girl like a child, like we say today, a girl is a child. A woman was mature by the time she had reached 9 years in that society. But today, the Western society has made women immature, and today we have different standards. So you do not apply the standards of 7th century Arabia and apply those standards in today's society or these standards in the old society, except in those things which have been stipulated by divine revelation.